Your life is more expensive than it was a few years ago. And no, that's not just inflation talking. The real problem? We quietly adopted a whole set of habits that drain our money every single month and convinced ourselves it's just what adult life costs. In this video, we're breaking down 7 of those habits and exactly why they keep you broke without you ever noticing. Stay till the end because the bonus habit might be the sneakiest one of all. Habit number 1. Treating convenience like a basic need, not a bonus. That one shift is costing you more than you think. Food gets delivered to your door. Groceries show up on your schedule. Someone drives you somewhere you could have walked. You pay extra just to save 10 minutes. None of those choices feel dramatic in the moment. But here's what's really happening. Every time you buy your way out of a small inconvenience, you're teaching your brain that friction is unacceptable. And once that sticks, cooking starts to feel like a burden. Waiting feels insulting. Walking feels beneath you. Now you're not spending for comfort. You're spending just to maintain your new baseline. The wealthy can absorb convenience costs because they already have margin. A lot of people build the convenience-heavy lifestyle first, and then wonder why there's never enough money left at the end of the month. Don't get this backwards. And once convenience becomes your default at home, it bleeds into your weekends too, which brings us to habit number 2. Habit number 2. Living every weekend like it needs to be a highlight reel. After 5 days of meetings, deadlines, and routine, people want proof that their life is still fun, so the weekend becomes a production. Dinner turns into drinks. Drinks turn into a late night. One plan becomes a chain of paid moments, one after the next. And the deeper issue isn't the spending, it's the pressure behind it. Staying home now feels lazy. A quiet Saturday feels like wasted time. Doing nothing feels like falling behind. So people spend, not just for fun, but to escape the feeling that their life is flat. Here's the problem. This happens every single week. Not once a year. Not for a special occasion. Every week. And when the weekend becomes your primary reward for surviving, the spending feels earned, automatic, deserved. But a life you have to purchase every Saturday is an expensive life. Now, most of that weekend spending doesn't happen alone. It happens with other people. And that's exactly where habit 3 comes in. Habit number 3. Making restaurants your default social life. Think about the last 10 times you got together with someone. Coffee, brunch, drinks, dinner, something quick after work, something casual on the weekend. Over and over. The same pattern, if you want to see people. Money enters the conversation. The problem isn't the occasional fancy dinner. The problem is that paid venues have become the only setting where connection feels acceptable. A walk feels too simple. Staying in feels low effort. Inviting someone over feels like work. So the path of least resistance is always the most expensive one. And because this is tied to friendship, dating, and belonging, it's incredibly hard to question. Saying, let's not do a restaurant, can feel like you're being cheap, even when you're actually being smart. There is nothing wrong with going out. The moment it stops being one option and becomes the only option, you're not just buying food anymore. You're renting your social life, one bill at a time. Speaking of things we rent without realizing it, let's talk about one of the biggest monthly expenses most people never question. Habit number 4. Driving more car than your actual life requires. Most people don't buy a car for the life they have. They buy it for the version of themselves that sounds better in their head. More power, more size, more features, more image. And because cars are so culturally normal, this rarely gets called luxury spending. It gets framed as practical, comfortable, safe. I might as well get a better one. But a car doesn't just cost what you pay up front. It keeps billing you for the right to own it. Fuel, insurance, maintenance, repairs, tires, parking, taxes, monthly payments if it's financed. The bigger and newer the car, the bigger and heavier that relationship becomes. And most people locked into all of that are still just driving the same roads they were already driving before. There's nothing wrong with liking cars. The problem starts when the choice is built around ego and identity, instead of actual functional use. Because when that's the case, you're not paying for mobility. You're paying for a story about yourself. And that story sends you a new invoice every single month. And the car is just one piece of a much bigger pattern. Because most people aren't just maintaining one identity. They're trying to maintain several at once. Habit number 5, trying to keep too many versions of yourself alive at once. There's the work version, the social version, the fitness version, the stylish version, the well-traveled version, the skincare version, the hobbyist. None of these are bad. The problem is that each identity comes with its own spending pattern. One needs the right clothes. Another needs gear. Another needs memberships, subscriptions, products, routines, accessories. Add them up and your life starts to look like a collection of separate budgets, all fighting over the same paycheck. And modern life actively encourages this. You're not just supposed to live, you're supposed to curate. Be healthy, stylish, productive, social, interesting, informed, and somehow relaxed while doing all of it. Every one of those roles has a market built around it. The sneaky part? Each individual version of you seems completely reasonable. It's only when you look at the total that the cost becomes visible. Instead of funding 5 versions of yourself, try collapsing into one thing that actually moves the needle, being someone who never stops learning. That identity pays you back. The others mostly just charge you. But here's the thing. A lot of these identities don't even start with you. They start with the people around you. And that leads us to habit 6. Habit number 6. Measuring your life against people with a very different financial reality. This one doesn't start with showing off. It starts with proximity. You spend time around people who earn more, inherited more, or simply have more room to breathe. And gradually, without realizing it, their version of normal starts to replace yours. The restaurants they pick seem fine. The trips they take seem reasonable. The clothes, the gym, the neighborhood, the style of weekend, it all starts to read as just standard adult life. But it's only standard for people operating on a completely different financial structure. And that's what makes this trap so dangerous. At least obvious status spending looks like a flex. This doesn't. It just feels like keeping up. You're adopting someone else's spending pattern without adopting the income, the assets, or the cushion that makes that pattern easy to carry. The fix isn't to isolate yourself. It's to stay conscious of the comparison. When you catch yourself thinking, that's just what people do, ask who those people are, and whether their baseline actually matches yours. Now, copying the lifestyle of others is one way money leaks out quietly. But there's another way that's just as silent, and it has to do with what you've stopped doing yourself. Habit number 7. Outsourcing things you're still perfectly capable of doing yourself. There's a point where outsourcing stops being efficient and starts becoming something you depend on. Cooking, cleaning, errands, shopping, basic repairs, small tasks that used to just be part of being an adult are increasingly being handed off to an app. Each service looks minor on its own, but over time, they create a life that's structurally built to expect someone else to step in. And once that becomes your default, every small inconvenience turns into a paid solution. Here's a practical problem most people miss. When you stop doing things, you stop knowing how much they should cost, how long they take, how hard they actually are, whether the paid option is even worth it. You lose the ability to evaluate what you're spending on. A useful rule: if a task is basic, regular, and still within your ability, be very careful before turning it into a monthly subscription. Because there's a version of life where everything is convenient, everything is handled, and you slowly forget how to do anything. That life is expensive, and quietly, it makes you more fragile. Those are the 7 habits. But since you made it this far, you're getting one more, and honestly, this might be the one that hits hardest. Bonus habit number 8. Paying for optimism. This is when you buy something not for what it does, but for the person you hope it'll turn you into. A course you never finish. A planner you fill in for 3 days. New workout gear. Expensive kitchen equipment. A book still sitting on the shelf. Buying feels like movement, It feels like you've started, like a new chapter is beginning. And for a moment, it genuinely does feel that way. But preparation and transformation are not the same thing. One costs money, the other costs consistency. A lot of people keep purchasing symbols of a better life instead of doing the boring, repeatable things that would actually build one. There's nothing wrong with investing in tools that support real change. The danger is when the purchase becomes the main event, when optimism keeps costing money, but your routines never actually shift. You're not investing in a better future. You're renting a temporary feeling that this time might be different. That's it for today. 8 habits, all disguised as normal, all quietly expensive. The good news is that once you can see them, you can start to choose differently. If this hit home, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and drop a comment telling us which habit was the one you recognized most. We'll see you in the next one.